I'm Adam Hosselmeyer. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be going over the top 2 quirks that I found with the Fuji X-S 10. While they might be related, and hopefully some fixes to the problems. The first little quirk that I have with the Fuji X-S 10 is the auto exposure. I'll show you some of the footage that I've taken before in the past and give you kind of a little bit of a look at what the auto exposure does at sometimes.
I don't really know what else I can say about the Fuji X-S 10. I mean, I have like probably 4 or 5 videos on this particular camera on my channel because I love it so much, and it's become just pretty much my go-to camera pretty much in any situation, which is kind of odd. I mean, it doesn't have the best specs and it doesn't have all this and that. I mean, it's not the greatest camera in the world, but it just seems to attract me, and it just seems to be what I like to use when I want to grab a camera and go out and film something. It's pretty much the camera that I gravitate towards, and I just thoroughly enjoyed it pretty much, except for situations like this where I can see anyway, let's see.
As you can see during that little clip right there, the auto exposure was just up and down, up and down. And that's anytime that you're going to be using any kind of auto exposure function in the XS 10, the potential of getting that kind of footage is pretty good. But I think it has something to do with the second little quirk that I found with the Fuji XS 10, and that's the autofocus. The Fuji XS 10's face and eye detection is far from perfect though. It will lose your face in some situations. If you're moving about the frame, it'll probably lose you. If you're wearing sunglasses, it will definitely lose you. And sometimes it'll see random objects as faces in the background, and it'll take focus off you and put focus on something else. And I think that all ties together. The Fuji XS 10, when you leave it in any kind of auto exposure mode and with face and eye detection on, it's always striving to get you the perfect exposure for your face. But when it loses your face, it falls back to the square. And in the square, I think maybe it does a multi-metering mode for the whole scene, and it just constantly changes your exposure up and down, depending on if it has your face or your eye or whatever. 2 fixes that I found for these kinds of problems are, as far as the exposure problem, I seem to find that working in manual mode is the best way to overcome that problem. You have to have manual aperture, manual shutter speed, and manual ISO, and then you can kind of lock down your exposure that way. And that's pretty easy to do in situations like this. We're just doing like a little talking headshot, but it's a little bit tougher to do when you're in run and gun situations. Luckily, when you're in run and gun, I don't notice the auto exposure fluctuating as much in those situations. But for a shot like this, you're going to be in manual mode. All 3 phases of the exposure triangle, you all want to be in manual mode for all 3 of those, so you don't have weird looking footage with exposure going up and down. As far as the autofocus goes, you always want to know where the box is. You always want to have it set to, before you start shooting, you want to have it set to the portion of the screen that you think you're going to be mainly in when you're shooting. The autofocus or the face and eye distraction happens to lose your eye, your face or whatever you're trying to keep in focus will be in that box. And I think the Fuji XS 10 has good autofocus. It's just the face and eye detection of the autofocus isn't very good. It's not very sticky, as we've seen in some other cameras in the market. Anyway, that's 2 common little quirks that I found with the Fuji XS 10, why I think they're related, and hopefully 2 fixes for these two little problems, and hopefully it'll make your shooting experience with the XS 10 that much better. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like. Thanks for watching.